The mystery of Colony X-17, a battle against the unknown. The Erebus, a deep space exploration vessel, drifted silently through the outer rim of the galaxy. Its mission was to investigate the disappearance of Colony X-17, a remote outpost that had gone silent over a century ago. No distress signals, no wreckage, just silence. Captain Elena Voss stood on the bridge, her sharp eyes scanning the data on the holographic display. The colony's last known coordinates were just ahead, but something felt off. The sensors showed nothing unusual, no radiation, no debris, but the silence was unnerving. Captain, her first officer, Commander Tarek, approached, his voice low. "We're approaching the colony's last known location, but there's something strange." Elena turned to him, her brow furrowed. "Strange how?" "The sensors are picking up faint energy signatures," Tarek explained, "but they're inconsistent, like they're flickering." Elena frowned. "Flickering energy signatures? That doesn't make sense. Prepare a landing party. I want to see this for myself." The shuttle descended through the thin atmosphere of the planet, its engines humming softly. The surface was barren, covered in jagged rocks and ash. But as they approached the colony, Elena's breath caught in her throat. The colony was still there, but it was wrong. The buildings were intact, but their surfaces were covered in a strange black substance that seemed to pulse faintly, like a heartbeat. The air was thick with a metallic smell, and the ground was littered with what looked like bones, human bones. "What the hell happened here?" Tarek muttered, his hand instinctively moving to his weapon. Elena stepped out of the shuttle, her boots crunching on the ash-covered ground. She approached one of the buildings, her flashlight cutting through the darkness. The black substance on the walls seemed to react to the light, shifting slightly, as if alive. Captain, one of the crew members, a young biologist named Dr. Lyra, called out, "You need to see this." Elena followed her voice to a large, dome-like structure. Inside, the walls were covered in more of the black substance, but there was something else, a series of symbols carved into the walls. They were unlike anything Elena had ever seen, a mix of geometric shapes and organic curves. "These symbols," Lyra said, her voice trembling, "they're not just carvings. They're growing." Elena stepped closer, her flashlight illuminating the symbols. As she watched, the black substance began to shift, forming new patterns. And then she heard it, a faint, almost imperceptible whisper. "You should not have come." The whisper echoed in Elena's mind, sending a chill down her spine. She stumbled back, her heart racing. "Did you hear that?" she asked, her voice barely above a whisper. Tarek and Lyra exchanged uneasy glances. "Hear what?" Tarek asked. Elena didn't answer. She was too focused on the symbols. They were moving now, shifting and rearranging themselves into new patterns. And the whisper, it was getting louder. "Leave this place, or you will share their fate." "Captain," Lyra said, her voice trembling, "we need to go. Now." Elena nodded, but as she turned to leave, the ground beneath her feet began to tremble. The black substance on the walls started to spread, creeping toward them like a living thing. "Run," Elena shouted. They sprinted back to the shuttle, the black substance closing in around them. Just as they reached the shuttle, the ground erupted, and a massive tendril of the black substance shot out, wrapping around one of the crew members. He screamed as it pulled him into the darkness. "Go, go," Elena shouted, slamming the shuttle door shut. As the shuttle lifted off, Elena looked out the window. The colony was gone, swallowed by the black substance, and in its place was something else. A massive, pulsating mass, its surface covered in the same symbols they had seen in the dome. "What the hell is that?" Tarek asked, his voice filled with terror. Elena didn't answer. She was too busy staring at the mass, her mind racing. And then she heard the whisper again. "You cannot escape." Back on the Erebus, the crew was in a state of panic. The shuttle sensors had picked up something, a faint energy signature emanating from the black mass. But that wasn't the worst part. One of the crew members, a young engineer named Jax, had been scratched by the black substance during their escape. At first, it seemed like nothing, a small cut on his arm. But now, the wound was spreading, the black substance creeping up his arm like a virus. "We need to quarantine him," Elena said, her voice firm. Now, Jax was taken to the medical bay, but it was too late. The black substance had already spread to his chest and his eyes. They were no longer human. They were black, filled with the same pulsating energy as the mass on the planet. "Captain," Dr. Lyra said, her voice trembling, It's rewriting his DNA. It's turning him into something else." Elena stared at Jax, her mind racing. And then she heard the whisper again, this time coming from Jax's mouth. "We are the harbingers. We are the end." Jax's body convulsed, and the black substance began to spread across the medical bay, consuming everything in its path. Elena and the others barely escaped, sealing the door behind them. "We need to destroy the ship," Tarek said, his voice filled with desperation, "before it spreads." Elena shook her head. "No, we need to understand it. If we can find a way to stop it." "There is no stopping it," Lyra interrupted, her voice filled with despair. "It's too late." And then the lights on the ship flickered, and the whisper filled the air once more. "You are already ours." The Erebus was falling apart. The black substance had spread through the ship's systems, corrupting everything it touched. The crew was dwindling, one by one, as the infection took hold. Elena knew they were running out of time. She gathered the remaining crew in the bridge, her mind racing. "We have one chance," she said. "The black mass on the planet. It's the source. If we can destroy it, maybe we can stop this." "And how do you propose we do that?" Tarek asked, his voice filled with skepticism. Elena hesitated. She didn't have a plan. But then she remembered the symbols, the ones in the dome. They had been a warning, a message. "The symbols," she said, "they're a key, a way to communicate with it, if we can." Before she could finish, the ship shook violently. The black substance had reached the bridge, creeping up the walls and across the floor. And then the whisper returned, louder than ever. "You cannot destroy us. We are eternal." Elena's vision blurred, and suddenly she was no longer on the bridge. She was back on the planet, standing in front of the black mass. The symbols were everywhere, glowing with an otherworldly light. "You seek to understand," the voice said, "but understanding is your downfall." Elena felt a surge of defiance. "I don't need to understand you," she said. "I just need to stop you." And then she did something she hadn't done in years. She prayed, not to any god, but to the universe itself. She prayed for strength, for courage, for a way to end this nightmare. And the universe answered. The symbols around her began to glow brighter, and the black mass started to shrink, its energy dissipating. The whisper grew weaker, until it was nothing more than a faint echo. "You cannot." And then it was gone. Back on the Erebus, the black substance began to recede, the infection fading as the source was destroyed. The crew was battered, but alive. And Elena, she was different. She had seen something beyond human comprehension. And she knew that the universe was far more dangerous and far more beautiful than she had ever imagined.